All right, good evening, everyone. I think we should be live now, and I think I've got the music at about the right level. I found out that YouTube does not really like it when I have the noise gate on my microphone and it starts cutting stuff out. So the fix for that is to put a little bit of music behind, and hopefully it is down low enough to not be a distraction, or at least not much of a distraction. So today we are going to be making chicken curry, and this could be a pretty easy recipe, reasonably fast. I'm using the one from the New York Times Cooking, which is a fantastic resource. So if you are ever looking for basically any sort of recipe ever, they probably have it somewhere, and they probably have a few different variants of it because they are very good about that. So we're going to be making chicken curry. But first, we're going to need to make some curry powder, because curry powder is something that people may not have on hand. I actually don't really keep much of it on hand, and the stuff that I had was gone. It was not where I remembered it being, so I don't know how that happened, but it did somehow. But yeah, we're going to start off by making ourselves some curry powder. And I just Googled online, found a whole bunch of different recipes. This one seemed to be pretty decent. It's from Minimalist Baker, and it seemed to basically have the same stuff that all the others had, and I liked the way that it printed out. So that's why I picked that. Alright, so we're going to start off, we've got a jar, and I'm going to realize that I grabbed a whole bunch of teaspoons, but not a tablespoon, and attempt to dig my tablespoon out from my increasingly crowded kitchen implements drawer, which is always a struggle. But I have accomplished it, and we're going to just grab a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of ground coriander. I was going through this afternoon just making sure that I had everything in order, and I realized at about 3 in the afternoon, boy, this thing does not want to come off. At about 3 in the afternoon, that I did not actually have everything I needed. I was actually missing mustard. So I had to run out and get some dry mustard. About a tablespoon. A little less than another tablespoon. That should make up for the excess. So that's 2 tablespoons of coriander. Next up, we're going to have the cumin. Again, just a couple tablespoons of that. So we're essentially just going to be dumping it all into the jars and then giving it a little shake, or a big shake, and get everything all mixed up, and then we'll have our own curry powder. Man, that cumin smells amazing. Alright, turmeric, so 1.5 tablespoons. I love these jars, but usually I like the shaker things, but sometimes they're just very annoying to get spice out. Oh, well, in this case it actually appears like that turmeric maybe. Yep, there it goes. Just needed to be freed up a little bit. That's 1. And there's a half. So 1.5 tablespoons of turmeric. We're going to get a couple teaspoons this time of ground ginger, which of course is pretty potent, so doing just a couple teaspoons of that. It's about half a teaspoon, 3/4, or that's 1 teaspoon, 1.5, and just a little bit extra there. So that's about 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. I originally thought about doing freshly ground ginger, but then I decided that that was probably not going to stand up too well, given that I'm planning on actually storing this and keeping it around for a little while. We're going to get the one I had to run out and get, dry mustard. If I can figure out how to take this thing off. Just slice through that. That tamper evident seal is evidently gone. So we're supposed to be grabbing a teaspoon of this. There, and then just a little bit more because I missed a little bit there. Alright, so teaspoon of dry mustard. We're going to get half a teaspoon of ground pepper, and I don't actually keep ground pepper on hand, so instead I just have unground pepper, which I'm going to attempt to grind into this measuring bowl here, and we will see exactly how successful that ends up being. It's kind of going everywhere. Let me grab another bowl. We are only looking for half a teaspoon. That's just under. That looks like it's probably about right. We'll just add just a little bit extra just to be on the safe side. So that is our ground black pepper. We're going to get a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. You can tell I use the cinnamon more than I use a lot of other things. And just a little bit extra. There we go. So that's the cinnamon. And then a half teaspoon of ground cardamom. We'll use the 1/4 teaspoon measuring cup for this because full half teaspoon one doesn't fit. And then finally, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of cayenne pepper, just about a half teaspoon of this. There we go. So this should be a pretty solid curry powder. We're just gonna screw the lid on tight, give it a really nice shake. Just a good old mix to make sure that it's everything's fully incorporated with everything else. Yep, that's looking pretty good. Looks like the turmeric has a couple of lumps here and there, so really gonna shake that around. There we go. That is going to be our curry powder. I now have spices all over my workspace. Is that really ever a bad thing though? Alrighty. Brush that off. Move this out of the way. And we should be ready to proceed with our main event, which is of course the actual chicken curry. So for this one, as so many of my recipes this is going to be starting with a couple of large onions. And this week, I'm trying out Imperfect Foods. They're like a food or grocery box delivery service that focuses on reducing food waste. So they sent me a couple of onions, which seem perfectly fine to me, but they assured me do not meet their suppliers' standards for grocery stores. So we're going to be using those because they are much larger than any of the other onions that I happen to have around. And they look pretty good, and I'm anxious to see how they stack up. We're just going to peel off the outer layer or two, which I do for basically anything. And yeah, looking at this, I don't know why they didn't meet the standards, but they look perfectly normal to me. We'll see how they taste when we're all done. Should probably move that recipe out of the way. It's gonna get all dirty. They smell really good too. They actually smell fresher than the ones that I normally get from the grocery store. Yeah, I saw these come in my box on Friday, and I was quite impressed at how they turned out. I got a whole bunch of stuff. All of it looked completely fine. The one thing that I could see really differed from its traditional grocery store counterpart were the chocolate-covered pretzels I threw in kind of as a last-minute, why not? But that was only because instead of whole pretzels, it had pretzel pieces. But honestly, that was still completely fine because I often break apart pretzels anyway. And that's the rice cooker in the background telling me that it's done. So I was pretty impressed. I was able to get a pretty large amount of food for not a ton of money. Most of it was organic, which I try to do just to reduce the amount of pesticides in the world. Got to help our butterfly populations and all of that. So far, like I said, everything's been delicious. Everything's been about what I would expect from anywhere else. The food may be labeled imperfect, but it certainly doesn't seem to taste that way. All right, we're gonna chop these up. Let's see, how much does it? I keep on misreading how fine they actually want me to chop things up. In this case, it just says peeled and sliced. Well, I think sliced is something I can do pretty easily because you can just slice this along. I think that seems quite reasonable to me. It doesn't say chopped. We're just going to go ahead and slice these up. I just love that satisfying crunch every time it goes through these cells. Okay, that was a lousy chop. This feels like I'm making onion rings again. Same sort of chopping everything up. I guess I was asked to make onion rings again. I'll have to do that at some point now that I'm a little bit more familiar with the process and it won't take me as long, hopefully. Alright, so let's see, we've got the peeled and sliced large onions. Let's swap over to the stove view where I have my large skillet already. I'm going to just move that cutting board view over to the other side. Alright, so what we're going to do here is, according to the directions, we need to place oil in a large skillet. It's just a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil. I think that probably qualifies as a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil. And we're going to get that heating on medium-high. We're going to let that oil kind of get to the point where it's starting to shimmer. Not quite to its smoke point, but definitely to a point where the oil is very oily. Alrighty, and then we'll be bringing in the onions, and I'm going to grab the pepper because we're going to be eating that in a minute. And then also I'm going to grab my box of salt, which is basically my favorite thing ever, and I have been going through this box at a pretty fast clip. I mean, it's been used up about half of what I had there in the last few weeks. I'm starting to see why people really can go through salt fast. Alright, yeah, that's feeling pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and grab those onions. I'm deliberately leaving my knife there on the cutting board just to concern anyone that's looking at it. Got our onion slices, which I am kind of breaking apart a little bit. I'm thinking that they're probably going to be we're going to be caramelizing these for a few minutes to get some of that flavor in, which I think is probably why they wanted complete slices. Not entirely certain, but that's my operating assumption, and to try and get that shrinkage going a little bit faster, I am breaking these up just a little bit. I don't know if it'll actually help. Quite probably not. All right. There we go. So those are going to be cooking down for a few minutes. It says, cook stirring occasionally until onions are very soft and almost falling apart. Well, I guess I did the falling apart bit already. Get some salt in there. We're going to get some pepper in there as well. Try and help tie everything together. We're going to let this cook for a little while. I think that for this tiny spatula, Man, I always love it when it starts to come up to temperature. Just gets that little bit of a hissing sound. As the onions almost start frying in the oil. Not quite frying, but get a similar sound. And these onions, I can tell they are really fresh because they have a fantastic onion smell to them, which I don't usually actually see on a lot of the other onions that I get. So that is definitely backing up my belief that these are probably very fresh onions. So kudos to Imperfect Foods for getting apparently very fresh stuff. Wipe off the cutting board here. Let's see what we have to do next. So next up, we're going to need to get our curry powder ready. So I've got that. And we'll be cooking that in another few minutes in with our onions. And then I also have coconut milk, which is something that I haven't really done much with before, but I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how the taste works. So I'm going to set these over here ready to go. And big thanks to my friend Danny, who suggested that I make this curry. He said he'd like to see how I did it. And Danny, I mean, the answer to that is I look around at a whole bunch of other people who have done curries. And I decide that there's no use in my reinventing the wheel. And I steal their stuff. I usually give it a little bit of twist to my own. So I'll play with spices a little bit. But by and large, I mean, I tend to follow published recipes. I think that the reason to watch what I do is just kind of see how it's done in real time. Because sometimes, you know, it's useful to see what works or what doesn't work. I know that's why I watch some cooking stuff. And probably part of why some people watch me. Because we aren't perfect. There's always something we can learn. And yeah. I think that my big strength is really in showing people what not to do. Like, don't forget to read the recipe until you're halfway through, like I did the other day. Or don't misread something and slice stuff in the wrong direction, which I have done several times. And when that stuff happens, you know, I'm usually I'll try to point that out so that other people don't make that same mistake. And of course, I always try to set up my stuff so that you can, so that people can cook along in near real time if you so desire. I think that would, I mean, I've always enjoyed the cook along stuff that I've done with friends, and so hopefully this would just be kind of an extension of that. Man, these onions smell delicious. I feel like now is probably a good time to remind everyone to make sure you hit the whole like subscribe thing and the little bell icon. I try to send out, I try to schedule streams a day or so in advance so you have at least a little bit of time to plan. I'll always include a recipe. But if you don't get the notifications, then you don't know that it's happening. And I also, my normal stream times are either 7 or 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And that's every Sunday and Wednesday evenings. And if I don't have something comes up, I'll try to post a message or something. I don't really know how that works. I haven't missed one yet. Should probably do a couple of these as a backup that I can release if I ever get sick or something and don't feel like cooking or am unable to cook. But yep, so it's going to be Sundays and Wednesdays at 7 or 7:30 depending on the day. Is when I'll be here streaming, and I usually try to get those streams scheduled at least a day in advance. I was a little bit late today. Ran into some conflicts with my D&D group last night. They were all busy fighting a adult red dragon, which kind of a foolish endeavor for them to do. They probably should have just started running. They did eventually, but it remains to be the next session. We'll figure out if they survived that or not. But usually I'll have stuff scheduled out a day or so in advance. And then coming up, I'm going to be making Doro Wat, which was recommended to me by a friend, a different friend, so not Danny. It's an Ethiopian dish. I think it's chicken. I do a lot of stuff with chicken. I don't know why. Just seem to be drawn a little bit more towards chicken. But so yeah, so the Dora Wat will be Wednesday. I haven't figured out what to do next week. I'm thinking that next week might be a good time for the basics. The basics cooking review that I talked about doing before. So if there's anything in particular that anyone is interested in learning how to make, that's not, a full-fledged meal, but maybe just like a component, or, I'm not really entirely certain exactly what. We'll probably cover rice, maybe some basic bread. But if there's anything that, yes, everything does taste like chicken. That's how the saying goes. I don't know how true that really is, but so yeah, if there's anything anyone wants to see me just kind of cover how to make, I'm definitely not an expert in most cooking things, but I know enough to get myself into trouble. I'm thinking rice, maybe a loaf of bread. Yeah, should be a fun time. Haven't fully figured it out yet, but that'll probably be next week. For now, we'll just keep getting this onion. Seriously, this onion smells so good. I'm not, I don't have a sponsorship deal with anyone, so I'm definitely not getting paid by Imperfect Foods to recommend their service, and I've only had one box, so my opinion could vastly change over time, but at least this first week I am very impressed. Should only have another couple minutes here with this onion, and then we'll be able to add in the curry powder that we made, and then the coconut milk. And that means that it's probably about time to start prepping our chicken here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the chicken. I've got a couple breasts that have been defrosted. So I'm going to swap us back over to the cutting board view. Should really figure out a better way to kind of have all this stuff set up in advance. Like a one-click thing. We'll go back over here to the cutting board view. I'll set this up slightly out of the way. I'm going to grab one of my favorite flexible cutting boards. And we're going to grab that chicken and start cutting it up the way that it recommends. I have read the instructions this time, so hopefully this will work. But it says that it wants it to be in 3/4 to 1 inch chunks. And that's, we can do that. These out of the bag I was defrosting them in. Alright, so there are chicken breasts. Stir the onions again because you don't really want those to burn. I know I keep saying it every couple minutes every time I walk over to the stove, but these onions really do smell amazing. Alright, and now we're back over here with our chicken breasts, and we're just going to quickly cut these up into some strips. And we'll partition the strips out from there. Alright, so we're looking at 3/4 to 1 inch chunks. Cut that one in half. That should be fine. Cut this one in half. I think most of these here we'll just cut in half. That's a nice big chunk. We'll cut that one in half as well. That one should be fine. That one should be fine. Cut that one into a couple of pieces. We're just trying to keep these, basically bite-sized. So I'm cutting a couple of these a little bit smaller. A couple of them are a little bit bigger. As we kind of mix them in, it should all turn out at about the same time. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good to me, so we've got the chicken ready. Wash our hands because we are touching raw meat again. We don't want to contaminate anything else. And we're back over here to the onions, which you should be able to see in the little pop-out window, I think. I think the onions are almost there. They're not quite there, but they are definitely getting pretty close. So apart from the chicken, what we're going to need next, let's see here. Let's see. We're going to need the tomatoes. I actually happen to have a can of diced tomatoes here. So we're going to go ahead and drain that, by which I mean I'm going to do that off camera because I don't exactly have a camera at my sink. And even if I did, I don't think that me draining a can of tomatoes would be particularly engaging. Though arguably it would be more engaging than just leaving everyone to stare at a screen while I drain something completely off camera. Let's not drop that on the floor. These are actually fairly well drained already. There's not a lot of juice coming out. Cool. Alright, so we've got our tomatoes. We'll swap back over here to the stove view, because I feel like that's where most of the action is going to be taking place for the next couple minutes. So these onions are moments away from being done. They are looking so tender. Just have a couple in there that I want to make sure really get hit by the heat for a couple moments. I love the color they're taking on. It's this nice, let's see, how well does it come through in the camera? It comes through, I guess, okay. Looks like my camera might be dropping some frames here and there. I'm sorry about that. Not a whole lot I can do about that at the moment. Probably should have swapped the cameras out. My more reliable one is over at the cutting board. I use Droid Cam for one of them and IP webcam for the other, because Droid Cam doesn't like running multiple instances at the same time. I think I just need to get them both running the same software. Or I could just finally do what I keep on talking about and actually get a computer set up inside my kitchen so that I can just have actual webcams hooked up to it instead of trying to wirelessly beam video signals over the air, which is very impressive technologically, but in terms of reliability, it's not always the most desirable. Let's see, how much of this coconut milk are we going to need? We are going to need 1 can. Okay, that's handy. I'm going to start getting that curry powder ready. It's a little bit difficult to judge exactly where the onions are. I keep thinking that they are almost there, then they're just another couple moments off. It's kind of how it often is, isn't it? A couple teaspoons of curry powder. All eyes turn to the onions, watching them simmer away. Doing a play-by-play for onions slowly cooking is probably not the best entertainment out there, but hey, it's more entertaining than watching paint dry, and I know that there are YouTube channels out there that feature that. Alright, I think these are good enough for the moment, so we are going to go ahead and put in that curry powder. Ooh, that stuff smells amazing. Go ahead and stir that in, and that aroma is just fantastic. And again, that's just homemade curry powder. Gonna keep that going for a couple minutes. Another minute or so. Keep stirring it. Yeah, the onion mixed with the curry flavor, or the curry powder's aroma, is just it's just unbelievably awesome. And the curry powder actually smells way fresher than most of the stuff that you would buy. So if you go out and you buy curry powder, this smells way fresher, despite basically just being a mix of other spices, which is all you get when you buy it. But for some reason it just smells fresher. Alright, we're going to put in the coconut milk now. Whoops. I'm going to spill the coconut milk a little bit. We're just going to let that kind of go for, let's cook until it thickens, about 2 minutes, stirring occasionally. That coconut smells fantastic as well. I'm just enjoying smelling the aroma of the curry and the coconut and the onion all mixed together. Going to come back up into a simmer here in a moment. Yeah, chai tea, that would be pretty good. I actually have enough coconut milk. I was sort of thinking about that. I think my partner would really appreciate it if I were to make some chai tea, because she likes that. Oh, you mean for the spices? Okay. Yeah, I don't actually know what goes in the chai tea. Let's see here, I've got a moment while this cooks. I was thinking you meant with the coconut. Let's see, chai tea. Easy chai tea recipe. It looks like, so cardamom, cloves. Yeah, I've got all of this. I've got the ginger. I don't have the whole milk, but I've got almond milk, so that should work. And I've definitely got lots of tea. So yeah, that should be pretty easy. I like how it's step one here is it assumes that you just have all of the unground versions of this, and so it's like put everything into a bag and crush it with a skillet. That's definitely one way to get crushed herbs and spices. Just hit it with a skillet. Whack it repeatedly. Alright, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to quickly rinse off my knife so I can set it down. I'm going to go ahead and just grab some chicken here and slide all of that in. Make sure it kind of all gets coated. And that's just going to need to cook for a couple minutes. Well, it does. Looks like I had a little bit of liquid spill, so I'm going to grab a paper towel and clean that up before it gets everywhere. And then I'll knock some of the spices over and into the liquid, because why not? All right. That's true. The chai would be pretty good for that as well. Yeah, you know, we've got a couple minutes here. I might as well give it a shot. Let me see if that's the best recipe or if there's another one. It would go well with it. It is a nice night for chai. Definitely got all of the ingredients for it. You know, I'm really curious as to whether or not the New York Times has anything for it, because their recipes are it's very varied. I really like how they approach some of their things. I've got chai masala, which looks like chai tea to me. It's like they're just recommending tea leaves, ginger, cardamom, milk, and sugar. Interesting. So it's very similar to the other recipe that we looked up. Just looks like it might not have everything in it. Let's try that first recipe, because I kind of like the look of it. So let's see here. For all of this, we're going to need to get all of it into a medium saucepan, along with the cinnamon sticks. Ooh, do I have cinnamon sticks? Or will I just have to use ground cinnamon? I think I'm going to have to use ground cinnamon. I don't think I've got sticks. But I've got very nice cinnamon. Oh, I do have cinnamon sticks. There we go. Cool. Man, the sweetness of the cinnamon, or of the coconut there, really adds a nice counterpoint to the rest of the spices. Wipe off the stove a little bit. I'll go ahead and grab a saucepan. I think it was Andrew Ray over at Binging with Babish that first started pronouncing it saucepan. That I was the first time I heard it pronounced saucepan, and it kind of stuck, and now I kind of can't stop saying it because it just works, and it sounds kind of cool. And now I'm just stuck calling it a saucepan. And is there a way for me to print this out? Because that's way easier than trying to look at everything. Alright, yeah, cool. Just going to scale this down just a teensy bit. Get everything onto one page. Print that out. Chicken's still going. Alright, let me go grab that printout, because that's just an easier way of keeping track of how things are going. I'm very tactile when it comes to a lot of my cooking and reading. I really need to kind of be holding stuff for it to work. Alright, so we've got our easy chai tea recipe, and I'll link this in the description when I'm done here. We're gonna take, I don't really know how much goes into 8 cardamom seeds or 8 cloves, so I'm going to be guessing, because guessing is what I do best. Like guessing where I put my cloves. I guess I do have whole cloves. Cool. Sometimes I surprise myself with exactly what I happen to have around. Alright, cloves. I can get some peppercorns. So we actually can do the whole bash stuff with a hammer. And I will swap us back over here to the cutting board. It really feels like it's probably the view that we should have right now. Alright, so this is an easy chai tea recipe. And for this, I've got cardamom. I've got ground cardamom. I don't have seeds. It does not say how much goes into a seed, so I'm just going to be kind of guessing and saying that's probably, I don't know, I'm going to probably base it off of whatever the cloves and peppercorn, what those end up being. Let's see here. Let's give this another stir. You can still see pink in that chicken, so it's not fully cooked yet. Getting there though. Let's see, I was grabbing my cinnamon sticks. Let me grab a bag so we can start crushing some of those spices. It's very specific in how many peppercorns it was. Actually, I should probably be using this one since it's the one that I haven't opened yet, or that I have opened already. Rather than opening a entirely new thing. One, two, three. That's 4 there. 4 full-sized cloves. Or peppercorns. Not cloves. Peppercorns. Put those into that bag. Then it says 8 cloves. 1, 2. Man, these smell good. 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cloves. And then it says I should hit them with a heavy skillet, but that seems kind of needless when I've got lots of other things around that I can probably hit them with. Let's see here. I say that and I just realized that the thing I was thinking of is really just another skillet, so maybe I should just hit them with a skillet. After I stir and hold the chicken and everything again. Almost at the point where those tomatoes are going to go in. Okay. Skillet, 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 skillet. Skillet! Get all those down there in that corner. I do not feel like those are crushing them particularly well. It's not like it's doing a horrible job, it just feels like there's probably more efficient ways for me to do this. Wrap that up a couple times because I don't want to break it through. Neighbors are probably wondering what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so those are probably reasonably well crushed. Put the skillet away, check on the chicken. I think that chicken is done. So, next up over there in the little picture-in-picture, we're going to be putting in the tomato. Stirring that in, and we're going to be cooking it another minute or so. From here, maybe 2. Before we do our tastings and determine what, if anything else, needs to be done. All right. Yeah, I know. Way to be violent with the pan. Hey, the pan had it coming. Well, the pan didn't, but the spices did. All right. Crushed spices are going to go back over into the saucepan. My viewers are judging me. I'm used to that. That's fine. All right. There we go. So that's in the pan. Based on that, I'm going to say probably like half a teaspoon for cardamom. Maybe a little bit less. Ish. Quarter teaspoon? Let's go for quarter teaspoon. See how that looks. That's about a quarter teaspoon of cardamom. That feels... Oops, that's loud. That feels about right. I feel like that's roughly where it should be. Alright, cinnamon sticks. So we're going to grab 2 cinnamon sticks. That's 1. 2 cinnamon sticks. Ginger. Oh, yes, right, ginger. I had actually some fresh ginger. And if I had known I was going to be doing this, I would have specifically pulled out. There it is. So I've got some very nice looking fresh ginger here. I think this can probably be pulled off the heat now. Yeah, that looks like that's done, and that looks pretty good. We are going to momentarily pause from our chai tea. I'm going to add in, helps look at the right recipe. I'm going to grab just a little bit of basil from my plant. And I think for this I'm going to use Thai basil. Just going to grab a little bit of that. Quickly tear some of that up. really just wants that for garnish. Yeah, that smells pretty good. We're going to stir that in just a little bit so that I can infuse it with a little bit of extra flavor. Maybe just a little bit more. This is not the classic basil, so I'm not too concerned about this getting a Italian influence or anything like that. There we go. That should be pretty good. Let's give this a quick taste. Oh, that's really good. The curry comes through pretty nicely. Needs a little bit more salt. And maybe just a little bit more than that. Like having a... The way I always think about it is that you want the flavors to be balanced across the so when you take a bite of something, you taste it for a couple of seconds. And you want the flavors to be kind of balanced across that entire taste. So the salt hits you first, and then everything else kind of comes afterwards. And you don't want the salt to be lost, and you don't want it to be overpowering. You don't want it to... You want everything to be balanced across the, say, 4 seconds that it takes to taste something. Yeah, I think that's much more balanced. You get that little bit of saltiness at first, then you get the... you kind of get the coconut, and then right after that you get all of the spices that kind of finish everything out and tie everything together. So I'm going to cut the heat to this and cover it. And then we are going to finish up our chai tea. I've got this nice bit of ginger here, which also came from Imperfect Foods. And so I'm going to slice that up. Give it a quick rinse off first. Let's point this back over at my cutting board. Oh, it's already on. No, it's not. I can read my interface. Alright. Just going to grab a paring knife for this. I'm just going to kind of slice this up roughly. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just try and get that surface area so that it can infuse. So just roughly cutting it up. And that smells so good. Like, oh my gosh, that smells amazing. Alright, so that gets tossed in with everything else. And let's see, ginger milk, 2 cups of water. So milk, we're going to need 2 cups of milk. Apparently it's a fresh thing of almond milk. So 2 cups here. Just pour that in. That's 2 cups of milk, 2 cups of water. Alright, we're going to bring this up to a boil. We'll take a moment or two. that moment to just kind of put some stuff away here. Put my curry powder away, or at least away from the stove. There we go. All right. And we're going to need to have 4 bags of black tea, which suggests Darjeeling. Let's see, black tea. I do have this really fantastic English breakfast tea that I got last year. I'm thinking that this might be about the perfect time for it. But I also have a few other really, really good teas. You know what? Here, let's see if I can show off my teas. If I do that and that, and I know you can't see any of this yet. Nah, that's not going to work. This might, though. Okay, let's try this. Transition. Just to that. Alright, so this is part of my tea collection. Not pictured is the top bit, which actually the British breakfast that I have here about. Oh yeah, that'll be perfect actually. So I'm probably going to use this, the Republic of Tea British breakfast, because that sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Alright, using British breakfast for... Yes, hello Dory. My cat is very irritated that I'm standing in front of her food dish. But some of the other teas that I have, which I really highly recommend, are... I've got this stuff, which is from the London Tea Merchant. They're a St. Louis-based company. And I have some of their Naughty Vicar, which is fantastic. And I haven't actually opened this one yet, because I'm still finishing off my older, the stuff that I got from them before this one. I was running low on that one, so I was like, I need to go get more. And I haven't finished off the old stuff yet. Recently, my partner went to Teatopia, another St. Louis-based place, and got some cherry hibiscus, which that's going to be pretty delicious. Of course, I've got this English breakfast blend from Ahmed Tea. So that's I've tried that. It's great. I don't drink a ton of just straight black tea, so I haven't gone through a lot of it, but it's there if I want it. And of course, I've got some infusers. And apparently some honey that is spilling out and onto the shelf somehow. Apart from that, I've got plenty of other Republic of Tea stuff, all of which is pretty great. So yeah, that's part of my tea collection. I'm gonna just quickly put a couple things back for my camera so that it doesn't stay pointed off up over there, because then I won't be able to use it for over here, and that would be sad. Well, it'll be sad for me. I don't know about for anyone else. Alright, I think I've mostly got that back where it was. Yes, I've got pumpkin spice tea. I've got pumpkin spice rooibos from Trader Joe's. That's actually a really good blend. I've also got the Republic of Tea pumpkin spice, which is also really good. I like them both a lot. They're sort of a fall thing. I actually have those from last year, and I need to really finish those off this year. Because after a while, stuff will start to go stale. Alright, so we are going to finish getting this back up into a boil. I have a fairly extensive tea collection. That's part of it. I've got another shelf above it, and I've got some more stuff in another box. I like tea. Haven't really been drinking a lot of it this summer, but it's definitely really more of a fall thing for me. I used to drink it all the time. I discovered coffee in the I kind of like the bitterness of that during the summer. The caffeine does nothing for me. I don't respond to the caffeine, so the caffeine content isn't really a consideration when I'm picking out things to drink. It gives me a little bit of a buzz occasionally if I drink a lot very quickly, but that really only lasts for about 15 minutes. It doesn't wake me up. It doesn't do any of the things that most people describe coffee doing for them, so doesn't really seem to do much for me. Coffee and tea I like them both. They're good for different things. I prefer tea for the afternoon and evening because it's something it's a little it doesn't have that bitterness, and it's a little bit superior in terms of its nighttime stuff. I'm not one of those people who's into drinking coffee at 10 o'clock at night or anything, whereas I would absolutely go for a cup of tea at 10 o'clock at night. And frankly, this whole chai tea thing just keeps on sounding like better and better the longer I make it. And if I can figure out where I put my lid for the next step, I reorganized all of my dishes recently. And that means that, of course, stuff goes missing. And it is not where you expect it to be. That's how you end up shouting to YouTube into your cupboard while looking for a cover. Yeah, they've got pros and cons. Tea is not really what I go for. Is this the same? I guess that fits. Okay, cool. Tea is not what I go for in the morning. So, for me, coffee is a morning thing and tea is an afternoon thing or an evening thing. I'll do coffee in the afternoon too, I guess. So the afternoon is either coffee and tea. Whoops, that's starting to boil over. Quite a lot. I don't really know why it did that, but it looks like it's in a full rolling boil, so I'm going to cut the heat. Kill the heat by lifting it up so it stops boiling and over. Put it back on the heat so it can finish boiling at least a little bit. Grab our tea. Go ahead and toss 4 bags in there. I'm going to actually toss 5 in there. I think this stuff's been on my shelf for a little while. And a little bit of extra is probably not going to hurt. Because it's probably lost a little bit of potency over the last year. I know, anyone British watching this is going to be like, oh my god, he's got tea on his shelf for a year? Look, sometimes it happens. Like I just said, I tend to drink more tea in the winter and less in the summer. I actually have a bunch of tea at work too. Because at work it's basically perfect. In the winter and early spring, I've got some nice flavored teas there. Alright, so we're going to cover this and let this go for about 10 minutes. I should probably set a timer for that. It's 8:15 my time, so 8:25. That's when we'll do it. Alright, so I think it's time to probably plate up our curry, since that is the main focus of tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and swap us over to the cutting board view. I'm going to grab a couple plates. I get this plated up. Put that there. Grab my rice serving spoon. Get the rice fluffed a little bit because it's got a lot of excess steam in there. I put the rice in a little bit late. I was like, oh, I should use the quick cook method, which is basically just the way that everyone else makes rice. It's it just puts heat on and applies that for a while. But the rice ends up coming out a little bit stickier than I normally prefer. But I was in a hurry, so I was like, oh, I'll just put on the quick cook thing. It's perfectly fine rice, but I was definitely a little bit surprised when I opened it and the amount of steam came out that did, because what I normally cook it on, which is the normal cook thing, it's got this fuzzy logic stuff that keeps the temperatures at specific defined periods for so long, and basically it uses advanced stuff to cook it, and it comes out basically perfect every time, whereas this is just really good. It's not perfect, which is fine. It works out just fine, but one of those things. All right, I'm gonna grab that. We're gonna here. I'll switch over so you can see me ladling it onto the rice here, just in the picture-in-picture. And it smells so good. Try and make sure I scoop up lots of the sauce as well. That's really what's going to add a lot of flavor to the rice. The rice is going to just soak it all up, and it's going to just be all kinds of delicious. Not just delicious, it's going to be all kinds of delicious, which is even better than just plain delicious. And I gotta tell you, this smells so good. I really wish there was a way for me to just share the aroma of this cooked chicken curry, because it smells so good. If I keep on talking about this, somebody's going to just be like, I'm going to show up at your house. Good luck. Nobody knows where I live. Well, actually, I know that there's a couple people on this that do know where I live. In which case, let me know sometime and we can get together and cook. Maybe after the pandemic is over. I'm not really going anywhere or doing anything right now. I think this could use a little bit more chicken. Why be stingy, eh? There we go. There we go. Let's try wiping this down a little bit. Grab a paper towel. Just make that plate look just perfect. All right. And that is how you make chicken curry. I'm going to take a picture of that. That's not my phone. Well, that is my phone, but it's my other phone. I somehow have 4 phones in here. One of them's a work phone. That's why I have it. All right. Taking a picture of myself. I'm taking a video of me taking a picture. I feel like this is some sort of Inception moment. Take something off to the side, maybe. Ooh, there's a nice little bit of steam coming off of that. Maybe the other side with the spices in the background. When I tell my partner that it's ready, she's going to come in and she's going to do this all over again. Motion on, I think. I think that'll show the steam off. I'm not really sure. It's a new phone. Alright, so we've got that. Let's see how the chai tea is coming along. Well, it's definitely smelling good. Alright, here I'll transition this to the really nice shot of the steaming food. Yeah, this is going to be pretty good. Actually, I can't wait. Grab a fork out of my overly full silverware drawer. Just gotta sneak a little bit here. Yep, that came out really, really well. I'm really happy with that. A little bit of the chicken. See how that came out. Nice and tender. Good flavor. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I just slide that down the cover. So if I get asked, did you already have some? I could be like, oh, me? Yep, that's pretty good. Alright, let's check back over here at the chai, which should be just about ready. It is looking pretty good. Grab just a little taste of this. Very hot. Very, very hot. But the flavor is pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Could use a little bit more cinnamon, I think. And so I'm going to grab a little bit of ground cinnamon. I'm just going to put a little sprinkle in. Not much. Just a little. Whenever the shaker bottle wants to start, there we go. Just mix this in. I know we had the cinnamon sticks in there, I just don't think that they quite gave as much flavor as I was hoping for. Stuff really is very hot. They're probably really good over ice. Yep, that'll be perfect as soon as we get that little bit of sugar in there, which is what it's supposed to have. But the actual taste of the chai is perfect. So I'll go ahead and strain this into some form of container that I can use to pour it from. Let's see, what do I have that would fit that description? I've got to have something somewhere. I've got... Oh, I guess I've got a Brita water picture. I don't really feel like that's probably the best thing though. Alright, I do actually have a carafe. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what I've got. I've got a teapot. Why am I trying to figure all this out? I've got a teapot right here. Gonna give it a quick rinse. to make sure there's nothing left in it for anything like that. Yeah, of course, I've got a teapot. Why am I looking for anything else? Teapot's exactly what I need. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're just kind of finishing up. I've made a chicken curry, which was finished a couple minutes ago and tastes pretty amazing. And I'm just finishing up right now some chai tea. It was suggested that I make some chai tea, and so I gave a brief overview of my tea collection. And yeah. We're just about to pour that into here. I'll drop my sieve everywhere. I really need to organize that drawer. And probably that shelf as well, because organizing is not always my strong suit. But I've got a... here. Let's see here. Can't actually see what I'm doing. Oops. Just destabilize my camera a little bit. There we go. Okay. So, I've got a funnel with a sieve on top of it. I'm gonna see if I can make this work. Apparently the answer is yes, I can. I didn't even break anything. Let's not put the meltable plastic thing inside the hot thing. Alright, so I should have some chai tea here. Let's get some sugar. It says 8 teaspoons. Which sounds like a lot of sugar, but I also know that chai is supposed to be fairly sweet. Teaspoon, teaspoon, teaspoon. Teaspoon! I need to reorganize that drawer. Alright. That's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons, 4 teaspoons, 5 teaspoons, 6 teaspoons, and I think we're going to pause here for a second and just give everything a quick stir and make sure I'm not about to overdo it. That's pretty good. Use a little bit more. Guess the 8 teaspoons was probably just about right. So that's 7 and 8 teaspoons of sugar. All right, gonna hop back over to the other camera here. I grab a couple of cups and start my dishwasher. I think it's time for our final plating for tonight. So we've got a delicious chicken curry, and everything made from scratch, right down to the curry powder. And we've got some homemade chai tea to go right along with it. Oh, apparently I did spill the chai. Oh well. Just was on the other side of the teapot. Too bad. Something else to clean up. Well, I think I'm going to go and enjoy all of this, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it and had fun, maybe learned something. I know that I definitely did. And I will see you all next time. On Wednesday I'll be doing Doro Watt, and that'll be starting at probably 7 Central. So make sure you tune in and hit the subscribe button, little bell thingy, something like that. I think as a YouTuber, it's in my contract. I have to tell people to hit the subscribe button, little bell. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.